Welcome to episode 97 of the Family Answer Man program. Today, we're talking about dealing with a narcissistic mother from a biblical worldview. I'm David Ortis, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Crosby, and he is our pastor, educator, marriage and family therapist, and the resident expert here on the Family Answer Man podcast. Now, Family Answer Man is not a therapy session. We're not able to give specific advice to your unique circumstances, but we do believe that spiritual and mental health are very serious issues. So for in-depth answers to your questions, we encourage you to seek professional counsel specific to your unique circumstances. Before we jump in, I want to just ask you to hit the notification bell, subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode of the Family Answer Man. And if you're listening via podcast, go ahead and rate us and review us, follow us on your favorite podcast app so that we can get the word out there about the Family Answer Man. And you can help grow the Family Answer Man community by sharing the show with your family and your friends so they can join you on this journey of having happier, healthier, stronger families. Well, Dr. Mark, it's good to be here with you today.
Absolutely.
We have an interesting topic. I think there are going to be some people that hear that we're talking about dealing with a narcissistic mother, and their ears are going to perk up.
Yep.
And there are others that by the end of the episode are going to say, "Wow, I had no idea I was dealing with a narcissistic mother."
That's true.
Interesting topic. A great topic for Mother's Day.
Right.
What do you find is the most difficult thing of balancing when you're navigating a new scenario with your mother? Is probably going to be for adult children. Maybe you're realizing for the first time, like, oh, things aren't what I thought they were.
Well, again, when you're a child or a teenager, even, we have to be under the authority of our parents, and in many cases, in many ways, we have to submit to our parents. Otherwise, there may be consequences, etc. Right. And so, it's only when we become an adult, or maybe a mother ourselves or a father, that again we begin to realize that maybe mom or dad wasn't always right. Maybe their tactic, maybe their philosophy, maybe their position, maybe their technique was perhaps more destructive than constructive. And so once we get to that age of, wow, we can really begin to analyze what was happening. We can begin to unpack some things. We can begin to look and compare and contrast some things. When we were children as to how our parents handled things, we can then begin to say, you know what, maybe it could have been done better. Maybe it should have been done differently. Maybe they could have been more flexible. They could have been more gracious. They could have been more loving. They could have allowed me to have a little bit more freedoms in some areas instead of being so overly bearing, so overly controlling, which is one reason why I wanted to leave so early, etc. And so again, once you begin to see that about your parents, you begin to then recognize that maybe if you're not careful, this may carry over into now adulthood. Okay. Because unfortunately, most parents will always see their children as around age 14.
Right. You'll always be my baby.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you come
for better and for worse.
Exactly. So when you come in for the holiday, or you come in for just a weekend, or just maybe to have dinner, they may still treat you like you're 14, 15 years old. And what happens is now you're 35 years old, okay, and they're treating you like you're 15, and that doesn't go over very well. And if they continue to do that, even though you've said, hey, Mom, I'd rather not have that on my plate. Hey, Mom, I'd rather not vote for that person. Hey, Mom, I'd rather not attend that particular church. And now all of a sudden, you're wrong, you are an embarrassment to the family. I should have raised you better. I can't believe you're, saying these things. I can't believe you're, not agreeing with me. And now you begin to realize something is definitely wrong. Yeah. That this parent is becoming overcritical, over-controlling, demeaning, demanding, still treating you in a very pejorative sort of way. And so now, and deriding sort of way. And so now you begin to realize something is very pathological here. Something is not correct. Something is not right. And you begin to recognize that maybe, just maybe, your mom, your dad, whomever, may have a personality disorder. They may have some, emotional and even psychological concerns or problems. And it's only then that you begin to realize, I've got to do something to take care of myself, or to take care of my children, or to take care of my marriage, or to take care of my home.
Yeah, and that can be difficult when you feel that the cape, so to speak, as you see your parents as the superheroes.
Right, exactly.
Falls off, and you realize that may not be the case.
Yeah, and they've had problems, and they have flaws and faults, just like the rest of us. But when you're a child, maybe even a young teenager, you see them as basically almost perfect.
Yeah.
And they definitely in some cases will project that.
Yeah. Well, that leads to the question for today. And if you have a question that you want to get answered and or have addressed, we would love to do that. You can email us, familyanswerman@liveoak.church, familyanswerman@liveoak.church, and we would love to answer those questions. Question today says, I am a 29-year-old mother of 2. I look forward to being with my children on Mother's Day. What I dread is seeing my mother. Since I was a child, she was controlling, critical, demanding, and demeaning. She was mean to my father, and I truly want nothing to do with her. Wow. Am I wrong? Is there something wrong with me? And do you have any explanation?
Well, there's a lot there, of course.
Yeah.
Again, as we said earlier, parenting basically is the primary focus, if you will, in developing our psychological well-being. In other words, parenting helps shape our psychological development. The environment that our parents create, the values and morals our parents bring into our life, the beliefs, the opportunities, the educational amenities that they provide for us, private school, public school, extracurricular activities, etc. So our parents help shape our psychological development through the love, through the nurture that they offer, or the love or the nurture that they do not offer.
Right.
So all of that has all of their actions and all their reactions really do develop us psychologically. They also help to develop us spiritually. Again, we've seen that time and time again, even in our church during our baby dedications. One of the things we share with the parents is that if both parents are actively involved in their faith, in their church, then the child that they're raising has a 93% chance of growing up with an active and sincere faith. If only one of the parents is actively involved in their church and their faith, and that child has a 56% chance of growing up into adulthood.
Which is a huge reduction.
Huge reduction. But if neither parent's involved in church, faith, or anything like that, that child only has a 7% chance of growing up into adulthood with any type of faith or practice of their religious beliefs. And so the point is that the parent helps to shape our spiritual development, helps to shape our psychological development. Even the Apostle Paul writes in 2 Timothy 1:5, he writes to Timothy saying how his faith was formed by his grandmother Lois and by his mother Eunice. So even the Word of God tells us that our faith really does come into existence based upon our parents, namely our mothers, our fathers, of course, and even on to our grandmothers and grandfathers. So again, faith is something that we see working in our family life, among our parents, etc. And so again, that's why so many have said over the years, everything I am, I owe to my mother. Right. That's why we've heard time and time again, the hand that rocks the cradle is the hand that shakes the world. And so again, most of the people that we look up to as great leaders or great athletes or whatever have a lot to do with their mother. In other words, they give a lot of regard to their mother. Dr. Ben Carson talks about, again, for those who don't know Dr. Ben Carson, incredible story. The greatest pediatric neurosurgeon perhaps the world has ever known. Basically said it was his mother that, made him do book reports every week and write, even though she was illiterate.
She couldn't read.
Yeah.
She would make them read the book reports to her and do an oral presentation.
2 books a week.
That's a creative solution. 2
books a week they had to read and do a book report on both books. And what that began to do is they began to, increase his neurological and cognitive abilities, making him smarter, making him more knowledgeable, more confident in school. And again, his story is he goes on, graduates high school, college, medical school. Most of these are on scholarships because he's so intelligent, and then becomes the greatest pediatric neurosurgeon the world has ever known. It all goes back to a mom who was involved in his life. So again, we're grateful for our godly moms. We're grateful for our loving moms. We're grateful for those moms who have sacrificed and who have loved us and who have encouraged us and who've been there for us. I mean, that's what Mother's Day is all about, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, based on this question, there are some moms that are very toxic. Yeah. And there are some moms basically that, if you want to become more specific, very narcissistic. And we have to be mindful of that because unfortunately not every Mother's Day, I should say, is a happy day. Especially when this type of relationship is taking place. And so, again, I want to say to all of our moms out there, Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, Happy Mother's Day.
And I want to say to all our moms, thank you for the contribution they've made into the lives of their children. But I also want to say to all the moms, please beware, please be self-aware that sometimes you may have a personality type or tendency that may not go over well. And to be mindful of that and begin to make some changes. As the old saying goes, it's never too late to change. Yeah, it's never too late to make amends. But you cannot change what you do not diagnose. So again, for the moms who are listening out there, just beware that again, we all are sinful and we all fall short. And if we are self-aware, then we can make the changes in our own life. And again, it's never too late to change. So what is a narcissistic mom? Well, what are we dealing with here? What is this person who's writing in possibly dealing with? Number one, a narcissistic person, just in an overview, does not feel a lot of empathy. And they want to get their needs met by others and therefore they become emotionally neglectful of others. So that's the kind of the groundwork. But there's 8 or maybe more than that, maybe more like 12 signs that we need to be mindful of when it comes to the narcissistic mother. Number one, the mom will see their child as an extension of themselves. In other words, the mother will say, you're going to follow my footsteps. I always wanted to be a cheerleader, so therefore I want you to be a cheerleader. I always wanted to be the beauty queen. I want you to be the beauty queen. And so what happens is the mom begins to make the child an extension of themselves. And so if the mom, wanted to be in beauty pageants but couldn't, then she'll put her child in beauty pageants in many cases, simply as an extension of herself. Now, are beauty pageants wrong? That's another debate for another day. But I'm not saying they are, but I'm just simply saying there's some children who say, Mom, I don't want to do this. Right. But you're going to do this because I did this, or I always want to do this, and therefore we're going to do this. But Mom, I want to play the piano. Mom, I want to play soccer. No, you're going to be a beauty queen. And so when a mother does not listen to some of the things that the child is wanting, I want to play the piano. I want to play soccer. I want to, play sports. I want to play basketball. I don't want to be a beauty queen. Then what begins to happen is that mother is now seeing that child as an extension of themselves and neglecting what the child is wanting.
That's classic, everybody calls it just, vicariously living out through your children.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right. Number two, they're very critical. Narcissistic moms are very critical. You need to be more of this. You need to be more of that. Why aren't you taller? Why aren't you shorter? Well, you need to lose weight. You need to, dress better. You need to make better grades. You need to run for this. You need to take care of that. Why don't more boys calling you or whatever? They're very critical. But when you turn it around on them, they can't take the criticism. So a narcissistic mom is very critical, especially of their daughter or their son's, performance, appearance, etc. Number three, she will share many times private information about you with others. Ooh. In other words, she may tell her friends about her daughter's first date. Okay. Or she may tell her friends how her son, struck out, on the baseball team or didn't make the football team or whatever. Or even other embarrassing things that mothers discover about their children that you don't want your friends or the parents of your friends to find out. But she will do that simply as a way of demonstrating her own power, authority, insight, and information as far as her children. But again, they share private information about you with others.
And especially in the church world, that can come a lot of times as a covert prayer request.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so
you got to be careful for that.
Exactly. Which also leads to number 4 in some cases. If you push back, if you say, hey, look, Mom, I don't want to do this. I want to wear this. I really, don't want to go where you're going, so to speak, then she'll hold things over you. She'll say things like, all I've done for you and why I sacrificed for you. I gave up my career for you. So what they want to do is they want to create guilt or a sense of indebtedness or a sense of you owe me. to their child. And so once, the child is hurt 100 times, how many times the mom gave up her career, or how many times the mom, gave up and sacrificed, buying this or buying that for them, then again, there's this sense of being held hostage. So a narcissistic mom will hold things over you. Number 5, a narcissistic mom has no respect for boundaries. In other words, they'll show up unannounced in many cases, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but sometimes, having a little 30-minute warning, hey, are you going to be home? Hey, can you pick up, the dirty dishes or whatever? Or sometimes they'll just walk into your house without an invitation. They'll do the Kramer thing. They'll just kind of walk in and you can be in the middle of whatever. And so, and if you say anything, they'll shame you. If you say anything, they will become very manipulative. So they have no respect for boundaries, which again, as we said time and time again on this program, someone who does not respect boundaries is dangerous.
Right.
Someone who does not respect boundaries is dangerous. And that even includes our own mothers, especially when they are coming in unannounced, walking in, going through your closet, wanting to know how much money you're making or whatever it may be. Number 6, they're constantly telling you basically that you're wrong. And if you, again, flip the script, they become a martyr. But they're constantly telling you you're wrong. They're constantly telling you that you're voting for the wrong person, that you're going to the wrong church, that you are, driving the wrong car, that you're fixing the meal the wrong way. And so they're constantly telling you, again, how wrong you are. And also, they also expect you to apologize to them, but they won't apologize to you. So if there's a problem, if there's a dilemma, if there's a concern, they expect you to apologize to them, but they ain't going to apologize to you because the narcissistic mom is never wrong. Next, if you're keeping count, this is number 7. She's always competing with you, especially between mothers and daughters. She always wants to show you that she's smarter than you, that she's prettier than you. In some cases, maybe a narcissistic mom will even flirt with your boyfriend. And so, or they want to hang out with your girlfriends. They want to be a part of the group, and they want to watch the late night movies.
Be the fun mom.
Be the fun mom. They want to go to the movies with you. They want to maybe later on go to other places, with you because they can hang out and they can dance better or they can look better and all this. And so again, their mom, the narcissistic mom is always competing. And when things don't go right, they're always the victim. If you say something to her, hey mom, you're not welcome to go with me and my friends to the movies or whatever. Mom, we want it just to be us girls or just me and my friends. And now she becomes the victim. You don't want me. I did all these things for you. Kind of back to the let me shame you into getting my way. So also, again, number 9, if you're keeping count, criticism is the norm. A narcissistic mom loves to be critical. Again, your hair is never done right. Your grades are never good enough. You should have made, the cheerleading team. How dare you play soccer? Whatever.
Right. Yeah, and the criticism is always to bring that person down with the hope of elevating themselves, kind of what you were talking about with competition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the narcissistic mom does this. Number 10, their anger is very harsh. When they get angry, they will say all sorts of demeaning things, deriding things. Again, even in this question, I think the person writes in the question that mom was always critical, right, always demanding, and always demeaning.
Yeah.
And so that begins to take its toll in the psyche of a person. And so when their anger is harsh and they say, unkind things and very demoralizing things, eventually the child wants to push back, or the child wants to break away, or the child wants to create very strong boundaries towards their mom. Number 11, the narcissistic mom will give all sorts of unfulfilling promises. Such as, hey, we're going to do this for you. We're going to do this for the grandkids. We're going to bring this over. We're going to provide this. We're going to bring you all that. We're going to make sure you have all that you want concerning this. And they never do. Or they rarely ever do. Or they don't fulfill the promises that they made clear they were going to, at least in the amount. They'll may say, hey, look, we're going to bring the kids all the Christmas presents they want, and they bring something from, a garage sale, and they bring in presents, but it's not what the parents were expecting or thinking. Not only that, but when a narcissistic mom doesn't get her way, she will withdraw emotionally. So if things don't go her way, she begins to withdraw. So here are some signs that you've been raised by a narcissist. Here are some signs that many people have, some traits, some characteristics, if you will. They were raised by a narcissistic mom.
This is where everybody should buckle up.
Buckle up. So if you're feeling like, you're never good enough, people who are raised by a narcissistic mom will always go around feeling like they're never good enough. They begin to sense that, feel that. If they make A- in biochemistry, it should have been an A+. Okay, because they're never good enough. If they made the second team All-American quarterback, they should have made first team.
Right.
So in other words, they're never good enough. They're more prone to depression because there's something that they can never ever reach, whatever that may be. Because they can't reach it, they're more prone to depression. Not only that, but they're also struggling with, if I don't do what my parents do, if I don't vote like my parents, if I don't go to the same church as my parents, then I must be wrong. And so they're constantly struggling with, I must be wrong. I must be wrong. Very similar to number one, I'm never good enough. Next, the parent expects you to care for them. So instead of, the parent taking you out to eat and paying the meal, they expect you now to do it. They expect you to take care of them. They expect you to make the first phone call. They expect you to get into their world. They expect you to, come by and take care of, cut their grass or whatever. They expect you to care for them. Next, if you feel like you never do enough, you never do enough. Very simple. Number one, you're never good enough, but here you never do enough, or you're valued only for your accomplishments. As long as you are the president of the fill in the blank, as long as you are the senior, manager, or as long as you are the, CEO of the company, then they will acknowledge you.
Yep.
But if not, they won't, because you feel only valued for your accomplishment. Next, you feel like you have no boundaries. You feel like I can never say no. I can never say it's my time. I can never say this is not a good time. I can never say, how about we do this later? You feel like you have no boundaries. And not just with your mother, but with most people.
Right.
Next, the parent often refuses to acknowledge their fault. In other words, the parent still expects you to see them as perfect, and there's a part of you that still sees the parent as being perfect.
And that's a lot of justification for you have no idea what I was going through when I was raising you, or the family that I grew up in. So if you still see your parents as perfect and they do no wrong, and you're the one who's wrong, you're the one who's never good enough, you're the one who needs to be an extension of them, then that shows that perhaps you were raised by a narcissistic parent. You feel like your opinions and beliefs don't matter, even among your spouse or among your friends or among your coworkers or your colleagues. You don't give your opinion because you've been told since you were a child by your narcissistic mother or father that your beliefs don't matter, that your opinions don't count, that you will say and do only what we feel you should say or do. And so these are some traits that many people will carry because they were raised by a narcissistic mom in this case. So there's a lot of weight there. What do you do if that's the case? So
which leads to our final part of our program in answering this question. So what do you do?
Yeah.
What do you do? First of all, you have to recognize who you're dealing with because, again, you cannot change what you don't diagnose. So you need to recognize that maybe, just maybe, all along I was being raised by a narcissistic mom. And so you need to know who you're dealing with. You need to recognize that this individual, their primary method of operation is to manipulate you and to guilt you. And once you recognize that, then you don't have to fall into that trap, which means, number two, you create boundaries. We talk about boundaries a lot in this program because they're so very important. But you have to create boundaries because a narcissistic person does not respect boundaries. So you're going to have to create them. And you're going to have to stand by them.
Yeah.
And you have to realize and recognize when they try to breach those boundaries. But creating boundaries is so essential and so very important. Fine-tune your relationships. In other words, you begin to discover, once you are an adult, once you have your own family, you begin to discover who is in your quality world. And so of course, it's your spouse, it's your children, and it may be even a sibling or a cousin or an aunt or an uncle. But those individuals that respect you, those individuals that love you, those individuals that are there for you, those individuals that aren't critical of you, those individuals that try to encourage you and see the best in you, those individuals, as we've said time and time again, that they came to your home at 2 a.m. or you came to their home at 2 a.m., you would welcome them, or they would welcome you with open arms, no questions asked, no problem, and they'd be happy to see you. So you fine-tune those relationships because, again, so many times we want the blessing from that narcissistic parent or that, especially that narcissistic mom. We want their blessing, but you'll never get it. They do not bless easily, and they don't bless well or often. Stay in touch with your Lord. Stay in touch with the Lord. Stay in touch through Bible study, through prayer, through small groups, through worship. And that way you can have that sense of hope and peace and grace and goodness that God pours into your life. Which again means, I would also argue, to have a good accountability partner. You're going to have to bounce things off of your friend. You're going to have to bounce things off of that accountability partner. And if you don't have an accountability partner, have a good counselor. We say that a lot here in this program. There's no shame in seeing a counselor. The Bible says there's wisdom in a multitude of counselors.
Yes.
So, have a good counselor. Speak to a counselor. Let them know what you're experiencing. Let them know your struggle that you're having with your mom.
Yeah, there's a lot of value in having somebody that's outside the situation that's
Absolutely.
able to then help you while you're inside the situation, which is why relying on a spouse a lot of times in this situation may not be super successful because they may be impacted directly.
Right. And not only that, they're going to they may be a little biased, if you will, and they may want to solve the problem instead of helping you bring the solution out of you, kind of thing. Next, recognize the dynamic of leaving and cleaving. In other words, you need to recognize that, hey, the moment you got married, you left your father and your mother and you cleaved your spouse. Yeah. And if you don't recognize that dynamic, then you're going to have a lot of feelings of feeling split, torn in two, if you will. Where does my loyalty lie? And the narcissistic mom is going to want you to be loyal to her. Yeah. The narcissistic mom is going to want you to be loyal to her, and the Bible doesn't teach that. The Bible says you leave your father and your mother and you cleave to your spouse. But again, number 7, especially, this is important to know as Mother's Day is approaching us. Demonstrate grace. Don't be a doormat, but demonstrate grace. You may want to send a gift. You may want to send a card. You may want to make a phone call. You may even want to drop by for a moment or two. You may want to drop by and present that gift personally. You may want to discover and declare some positive attribute or trait in the life of your mom. She may have been a narcissistic mom, but let's just say, for the sake of argument, she did do some good things here. She did some good things there. She did pay for this. She did help you get through that. There are some redeeming qualities I'm sure you can focus on. Share those with her. Speak that into her life. Give her a card. Give her a gift. Show some grace. You don't have to be a doormat, but you can be gracious. And by doing so, it will bless her, and also ultimately it will bless you.
Well, there you have it from the Family Answer Man. You are completely able and capable of dealing with a narcissistic mother in a way filled with grace and also boundaries. We hope that this episode of the Family Answer Man has been helpful to you. Encourage you to share this with your family and friends so they can join you on this journey of building healthier, happier, stronger families.